In graph 2 of my behavioral blend, I found that I am a high C, meaning I feel expected to be more passive and reserved at home and familiar environments, which sometimes I feel might not be true about my behavioral blend. But sometimes I do feel that it is true in my behavioral blend. My behavioral blend for graph 1 and graph 2 have very similar traits and some very different traits. But in a way, I feel they all fit my personality and my conversation style. In graph 2, this is me. I found that I am not aggressive and not pushy, which I feel to be true about myself. I find value in being determined and dominant. I'm sensitive to what people think about me. And I find enjoyment in those large and small crowds, which is one of the similarities that I had from graph 1. This is expected of me. My communication barriers that hinder my communication are sometimes I have different beliefs and I have a different perspective about the topic. Sometimes I have no interest or I have a conflict of interest in the topic of discussion. Sometimes I am able to stay on track with the conversation, and sometimes I get sidetracked with those conversations about what I feel is more important. And sometimes my nonverbal communication tactics can also be a communication barrier. Oftentimes I will listen to what the person is saying to me and I will fall into the writing reflex. This means if the client was to say something to me and they would want me to make that decision for them, or if I had a different belief or value, I may fall short of kind of telling that person what they should do to solve the problem. However, going back, I have to remember that they are the expert in finding their own solution. Another communication barrier that I have is cultural differences, emotional differences, and sometimes distractions. Resources that I have found successful in my interpersonal communication is that it's easy for me to start a conversation and hold a conversation if I ask more meaningful, open-ended questions. I am able to affirm that I hear and understand what that person is saying to me during the conversation, and I find it very easy if I use partnership as a resource when communicating with my clients. Partnering with my client will really open up the trust for them that they can have toward me. I have found it successful to reflect back to what that person has said to me during the entire conversation in a respectful manner. Interpersonal communication, therefore, can be viewed as a large-scale social phenomenon that is essentially involves a group-level normality. Strategies I have used and found successful in communicating with my clients is that to listen to them without interrupting them. Sometimes my clients may feel that I was rude if I stopped the conversation and interrupted them, which is rude if you think about it. I look them in the eye while I'm conversating with them. I provide supportive language and listening skills. I point out the important things that they have said in their communication style. I provide positive reinforcement throughout the conversation. I promote good self-esteem to all of my clients, and I show it through myself. The most important thing is when you are promoting good self-esteem is that you show good self-esteem yourself. I do not judge what other people say to me, and I do not discriminate against people who come into sessions. Reassuring my clients that their communication and my communication partnered together is very important. It makes them feel free to express themselves in a safe environment. My action plan for my overall interpersonal communication is to work on my listening skills, learn to ask good open-ended questions in order to keep the conversation from ending too quickly, affirm what the speaker is saying to me and provide them with autonomy, reflect and summarize what they are talking about in the conversation, and reassure that I was providing my full attention to what they were talking about. Do not make the topic conversation personal at all. Sometimes I feel like I can relate pretty easy to some people, and I fall short of giving my own personal values, which may break that rapport and may not have good conversation with that person. More things that I have found successful with my action plans, with my clients, and my interpersonal communication is to practice skills alone before reinforcing them onto someone else. Be able to identify where my strengths and weaknesses are in the conversation. Learn to not judge others or what they are talking about during the conversation. Everybody's different. We've all made mistakes and we are all human. And that is easy for me to have a conversation if I can just remember those things. Be a good listener, supporter, and mediator when needed in the conversation. And teach them that they are essentially the expert. In conclusion, humans live in a world of meaning, and communication is the process that collaboratively makes these meanings. Sometimes telling the clients that they are the expert and that the solution is in their hands, sitting beside them, talking with them, and not talking at them is key to effective interpersonal communication.